Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DEVASC 200-901 certification exam preparation course, and this is the final activity, lab or packet tracer, for the course. Now, we're going to be looking at Packet Tracer 8.8.3, and before I tell you what we're going to be learning here, there is a massive caveat if you're watching this and not taking this course or enrolled somewhere and do not have the DEVASC virtual machine. This activity can only be done in the DEVASC virtual machine. So you're still going to learn some very cool stuff and see some really cool Python scripts. However, you won't be able to complete this without the DEVASC virtual machine. So what are we going to be learning? You're going to learn how to implement REST APIs with an SDN controller. Because up to this point, all of our REST API implementation work has been either with Postman or with a Python script. Now we're going to pull in a software-defined networking controller. Again, the packet tracer simulation of that. And we're going to dive in and get that done right now. So real quickly, as we float over here, I am in the DEVASC virtual machine. That's part one. Part two is you're going to have to log in using Chromium into the DevNet Associate course, and you're going to have to pull down the packet tracer file. Now, when you do that, it dumps it into the downloads directory by default. Here are your instructions for this lab. So again, this lab can only be done if you've got the DEVASC virtual machine. In fact, if we came up to help and about, you'll notice that this is a special version of Cisco's packet tracer, 7.4.0T, that you will only find on the DEVASC virtual machine. All right, so enough of the logistics. Let's dive in here and make sure we've got everything ready to go. So we're going to make sure that packet tracer is set up for external access. So we would come up here to to Options, Preferences, and this looks a little bit different because we were doing it on the Mac originally, and now we're doing it on a Linux Ubuntu box. And you can see that external network access from device scripts and network controller REST API, that is enabled. We are good to go from that perspective right there. Now, you'll also notice that the network controller here is already in the topology. And so again, I'm just going to drag it and move it over here to show you that, hey, it's there. Let's kick that open. Let's give ourselves a lot more room with which to work. So hopefully this is going to be nice and large here. If we go to the config, you can see you go to real world, click on controller, and the HTTP port is correct, 58,000, but we need to kick things on, right? And this is where we're now going to test, okay, well, let's see if I can go from the virtual machine and get to this host. So they want us to open up Chromium, and there's my Chromium browser. Let's kick open a new tab up here, and let's say http://localhost:/, and what port number do you think we type in? Yeah, the 58,000. And then we're going to try to weasel our way down here to the API, version 1 host. And so here we are making a RESTful GET request to the API server, which would be our SDN controller. And so I've just confirmed that I've got access to the SDN controller. Now, what you see may be a little bit different, but it should look pretty darn close to what we have right there. And what is this? Yeah, you're right. We're getting it back in JSON data. So let me ask you this. What if I was to copy that? And what if I was to come down here to Postman, which is, where is it at? There it is. If I was to kick open Postman, and what if I was to do a new request, new HTTP GET request here, paste in that information and click send? Yeah, it's going to work. So we could even take a look at the headers, right? So here are the header values that we've seen before. You got the Postman token that gets used. But more importantly, we get this 403 forbidden. So this is another opportunity to see that, yeah, like a 40, or I should say, unlike a 401 unauthorized response, authenticating will make no difference. But we got back what we expected to get back, which was this JSON data. And here you can see right there, it was the JSON data that we got back. Again, yeah, it's an SDN controller, but it's got a REST API. So we're just making RESTful requests to get the information that we need. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to request an authentication token with Postman. So let's investigate the REST API documentation, because we need to figure out, okay, well, I know I need to get a token. How do I get that token? Well, where would I go to look for REST API documentation on the SDN controller? Well, we would go onto the SDN controller. We're going to go to the desktop. We're going to come to the web browser over here. I'm going to type in the 192.168.101.254, same IP we used before. Our login information should be Cisco and then Cisco 123 bang. And we are logged in. Now remember, we saw this previously when we did Packet Tracer 8.8.2. So we know that if I click on the little hamburger here, that I've got API documentation. Okay, let's come on down and take a look at the API documentation. And there is a lot of API documentation here to be looked at. So specifically, we're curious about how do we add a ticket, right? Well, take a look. The ticket section, add a ticket. So we're probably going to be interested in that. And again, that's what they want us to take a look at. And so you can see here, where would you do the post command to? It would be the /ticket. Here's a curl command, right? HTTP, and that's going to be the address of the controller, the 192.168.101.254. What's our port number? Yeah, 58,000. And then the ticket. And so here is a description of what we would use for the ticket. And then you can see if we've got different status codes that we get back as to what might the issue be with those different status codes, the HTTP response codes. All right, let's create a new post request. And we're going to do this in Postman, right? Because we're using Postman to kind of test things out to see what's going to happen. So we've got this add ticket thing here. Let's go ahead and go back into Postman. Where are we at there? Go back into Postman here. And instead of a GET request, let's just change it to post. And instead of host, we can change this to ticket, right? Because that's where we needed to go in order to get the ticket. Now we're going to come to the body. And remember, we're going to do raw JSON format here, right? Because that was what the documentation showed me. So we've got an open curly brace. We're going to write some JSON. So my username, oops, sorry, make sure we spell these things right. My username is going to be Cisco. And we'll put a comma there to separate the key value pairs. And I'm not sure where the schema thing came from there. Hold on one second. That kind of ended up in there somehow. All right, so we are going to do a comma to separate our key value pairs. And then, of course, it's going to be the password. So this is what we're sending in the body of our request. And hold on one second here. It's not... There we go. All right, so Cisco 123 bang. Okay. So I could actually save this request if I wanted to. It's going to ask me to put a name in here for the request. And I'll just put post get ticket. All right, so there we go. And, you know, we could pick where we want to put this. Let's just put it in I'll put it in the get requests for now. Again, you could create a workspace here, call the workspace lab 883, and then organize all your collections of your get request, your post request, whatever it is that you're practicing, right? Okay, so we've got everything saved. Everything's ready to go. And that should be it. So let's send the post request. Let's see what we get back here. All right, so we get a service ticket number. And again, we are communicating with the Packet Tracer SDN controller. How cool is this? All right, so that service ticket number, that is going to be important. Now I'm going to grab the quotes along with it because mileage has varied in terms of whether or not we need the entire service ticket with the quotes or just the service ticket number. So now I can send additional REST requests with Postman. So let's click new. And this is going to be, you know, just another HTTP request here. And we're going to type in http://localhost. And I'll drag it down here to the host. But what we're really going to do is we want to see network device information. So now that I've got this ticket, and the ticket is going to be my XAuth token. That's what I'm going to be giving to Postman to say, hey, send this as an HTTP header, right? Remember we looked at this before, the headers dictionary that we created with key value pairs when we worked on the WebEx API, and we sent in our authorization token, right? The bearer token we got from WebEx. So here we're doing the same thing. We're just sending in this different looking ticket token, right? Which is going to be our XAuth token to authenticate us so that the SDN controller will give me information about the devices that it is managing. All right, so in the headers field here, we're going to scroll down again. We've got this key field. Well, here we're simply going to type in X dash, and it should be in here somewhere, auth, and it wasn't pre-filled. Okay, so we're going to type in XAuth token, and here's where I'm going to put my value in of the service ticket. So we're going to paste this in, and we'll do and it doesn't look like that. Let's go back to, whoops, let's see. We're going to go back here to, what was I doing? Oh, now I can't find my ticket request. Hold on, it's going to be right up here. And no, post ticket, we could get post ticket. There it is. Okay, so let's grab the ticket one more time. Sorry about that, kind of got lost in the shuffle. Let's copy that ticket, and we're going to come back to the GET request that we're working on here for network device. We're going to go back to the headers. We're going to type in, oh, sorry, XAuth token is there. And so then we're going to see, and it doesn't seem, there we go. Okay, good. It finally pasted it back in. For some reason, lost it out of my buffer. All right, so we've got our XAuth token. We don't have double quotes around it. Let's see what happens. We should be okay. And now we're going to send this GET request. And let's see what we get for the network devices. I'll click on save. Again, let's go ahead and save this as get network devices. And we'll click on save. All right, there we go. So we've got it right there. Let's click send, and let's see what happens. All right, so we are getting a list of all of the devices that SDN controller has access to. And you can see there's a lot of information going on here, right? You can see if I'm scrolling down for all of the different devices. You can see collection status, it's managed. We've got our network device IPs for that device. You can see the devices to which it's connected. So we're getting a really rich set of JSON data here that gives us all of the information, excuse me, that the SDN controller can provide to us about the network devices that it sees and that it is managing. All right, excuse me. So it wants us to duplicate this request. Haven't had luck with the duplication feature in the past. So we'll click on duplicate, and then I'm going to change the name here, and we're going to call this, and I'm hoping this isn't going to change things on the other side. And we're going to say, we'll just call this get network. I'll just call it get network hosts. And I think what happens is, for some reason, it's going to give us an issue when we go to do return. Okay, good. It did not. All right. So we're going to change this from network device to network host, right? Now, remember, we duped the request. So what are the HTTP headers that we're sending to the REST API server on the SDN controller? Well, again, we need this XAuth token with our ticket number. And that's why we wanted to dupe the request, because then I don't have to create a net new request, come back into the headers, type in XAuth token, paste the token back in. So we just duped that request. Let's go ahead and click save, and we're going to click on send. So we're sending that to our SDN controller. And again, take a look. We get all of this information about the devices, or I'm sorry, about the SDN controller. And if we were to drag down a little bit over here, you can see it shows us the devices to which it sees and has reachability here, and that it is managing. And so that's how we can use Postman, right? We generate the ticket, and the ticket, think of it as like the golden ticket, right? It's going to get us into the chocolate factory, which is the SDN controller. There's my Willy Wonka analogy for the day. So now we're going to go to part 5 of the lab. We can send RESTful requests using Python scripts. And that's what we're going to do right now. So if we were to go to VS Code, you could pull that up. I'm going to do everything here in the labs DevNet source PTNA directory in VI, or technically Vim, which is VI improved. But this is where I'm going to be working on things in order to send and receive RESTful requests. So let's take a look at the first GET request here and take a look at this. It's got our API URL. We're importing JSON. We're importing request, right? You should probably be sick and tired of seeing import JSON, import request. We create a variable that's going to hold the string value of the URI, getting us down to the resource that we want to get to. And then there's our headers field, right? We're sending the data in JSON format. Here's the JSON body that I'm sending in, which is what? This is just that authentication information to get to the device. And then we've got a response that we're going to capture here, and we're posting that information up and sending all of that information in, and then we're going to print our ticket status. And then, you know, we're going to basically say print tickets request status, and there's the response HTTP response object. We're going to get the status code, which should be 201, I'm believing, because we're going to do a post here. And then we get a service ticket, and then we're going to print the service ticket number out. So we're posting our credentials in order to receive a ticket, and we're going to use that service ticket number on the subsequent scripts that we run. All right, let's clear the screen here and let's see what happens when we say Python 3 and we say get ticket. And lo and behold, we get a new globally unique ticket number, and the request status, the HTTP response code, is a 201 for that post request. And so everything looks good there. All right. Now, again, before we were using Postman, and we would put in the XAPI token into the Postman GUI, and we used that value right there for our XAPI ticket token. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the Python script, or actually I think they want us to run the Python script here first. We're going to say Python 302, and this is get network device. What happens here? We get a type error. String indices must be integers. So what do we need to do? Well, let's go into O2, get network device, and let's see what we've got going on here. All right, so there's the import JSON, import request, the URL to the network device, header, XAuth token. Your service ticket. So here is where we need to come in and we need to drop in our service ticket number. And again, if you're doing this in VS Code, you're doing the same thing. It's just in VS Code. Then we're going to send a GET request. It's going to have that the API URL. It's going to have the headers, which are my XAuth token and my ticket. Verify false for the verification. I'm going to get my response status code, my HTTP response code that we get back. We should get a 200. And then we're going to capture that JSON information that comes back to me in the response underscore JSON variable. And then for network devices, and here's where we're going to run a really nice for loop, right? So network devices, we parse the JSON data, and we're not printing the JSON data out, but maybe we should. And let's see what happens here. So we're going to look for the key response in that JSON object, which is a Python dictionary. So based on that key, for the network device in network devices, which should return to us a Python data structure, right? We're going to print out the network devices, the name, the platform ID, and the management IP. All right, well, now that we've added in our API token and we got the status 403, meaning, hey, it was an authorization. Oops, sorry, I'm going to VI that again. It was an authentication type error. We'll say clear. Let's run that script now, and there we go. So just by putting my ticket in, I'm allowed access back through here, and you can see that we run this for loop, and we grab the switch name, we grab the model number, we grab the IP address. It was a GET request, so the HTTP response code is a 200, and that lists out all of the devices that our SDN controller is managing. And again, we're sending these REST requests to the SDN controller that's running in Packet Tracer. How cool is that? All right, so now we're going to take a look at O3, which is get some host information. Again, doing the same thing we were doing in Postman, but now doing it in Python scripts. So you can see right there, we're going to need your service ticket number to get this host information. So let's say VI03, and I'm just going to drop down here, and we're going to drop in our service ticket number. So let's paste that in. There it is. Let's run the script. And actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and let's cat out the script so we can see, again, importing JSON, importing requests. We've got our URL. We have our header information, the XAuth token, and our ticket number. This RESP variable is going to capture the response object that we get when we do the requests. Get method, we send in the URL, the header information, the verification for false. We print out the request status. We should get a 200 because it's a GET request. We're going to get the JSON data. We're going to capture that object in response_JSON. And then hosts is a variable that is going to be whatever was at that response level of the JSON object. The key response has a value. We're capturing that value in hosts by iterating over all of the hosts. And we're going to do the host IP, the host MAC address, and the host connected interface. So let's see what that looks like from a Python script perspective. So we're going to say Python 3 and then 03, and away we go. So how cool is that? To be able to run a single Python script and generate all of the devices that are seen by that SDN controller, right? And these are the PC devices, right? You can see admin, PC1, PC2, PC3, and PC4, not the routers and switches that were there, right? So these are the hosts as opposed to network devices. And so we see all of that information here by simply running those requests. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the optional activity part 6, right? We've come this far. Let's go ahead and create a project in Packet Tracer. So we're going to go back to Packet Tracer that we're running here. We're going to click on the admin PC. And as you can see, we've got all kinds of stuff going on here. Let's close our browser down. And we want to click on the Programming tab. So here's our Programming tab. There's currently nothing here, so let's click New. And we're going to give our project a name, and we're simply going to call, get back here at the end. We're simply going to name this project REST APIs, right? And we're going to choose an empty Python template, right? You can see, you could look at the beauty of Packet Tracer, what you can do here. You could use JavaScript. You could use visual, all kinds of stuff that you could do down there at the bottom as well. But we are interested right here in an empty Python template. We're going to click Create. All right, so here we are in the main.py. So we're going to modify the scripts to run inside Packet Tracer. So we're going to go back, and you would go to VS Code if that's where you've got your scripts. But in the admin programming tab under main.py, I am going to go ahead and we're going to grab the 03 script. So let's float back over to this. Let's clear our screen. Let's cat 03. And let's grab all of this all the way down to there. Let's copy that. And so in Packet Tracer, we're going to be able to do something pretty cool. We want admin. There we are. And so here we are on the main PI, and we're going to, let's do this here. And let me see. I'm hoping the paste is going to work. And it won't do the control click. Let's see. All right, fantastic. So we made it out alive there doing the cut and paste. It seems like all the Python stuff and the REST API stuff is the easy part. It's the cutting and pasting that's killing me here. All right, so we've got that in there. Edits are automatically saved here. So if I was to come up, we need to change one thing. It's going to be HTTP. We're going to replace this because we're doing it in Packet Tracer now, right? So it wouldn't be localhost here. Since it's in Packet Tracer, we can go ahead and say 101.254 and put in the address for, and it's stating here that we don't have the port number there anymore. Okay, let's see. That's what it says we should be able to use, and we should be able to run this. And again, changes are saved immediately. I'm going to click on Run, and let's see what happens. Here you go, starting the REST API. And take a look at that. So let's go ahead and copy and paste the O2 get network device script in here. So we'll just append O2 to the end. Let's do clear, and we'll say cat O2. And we don't need all of the JSON information. In fact, we'll do this here. So we'll reset that API URL, and we'll keep our token in there, and we'll just paste that down here. And let's go ahead and do a Control V. And so again, you can see here, if I was to put some comments in here, this would be the O2 script. And we're going to reset API URL. And again, that's going to change. And we'll get rid of the localhost :58,000. And Packet Tracer is going to set us up nicely here, 254. And let's click on Run. So now in addition to that information, we should get all of that information, right, from the network devices. And that is going to complete all of the lab and Packet Tracer activity for this course. So now start to think. My question to you is, what other cool things could you do here in Packet Tracer? What other cool things could you add to this script? Maybe you do an if command to check to see on the post request if it's between 200 and 299, your HTTP response code. On the GET request, maybe you do something similar there as well. Break the scripts and run them and see what you get. Then go back in and fix them. All right, well, it has truly been a pleasure working with you this semester. I have had an amazing time. I really hope that these activities have clarified all of the concepts that we've been working on and given you a great foundation from with which to work and move forward in your studies at Anne Arundel Community College or out there in the World Wide Web. All right, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope I've earned the privilege of your time, and as always, I hope to see you in the next video.